Anthony Crimmins, Stickstar Lacrosse, Stickstar Productions, here for a panel discussion, season recap, Lone Star Alliance. This is pre-recorded on April 12th in anticipation of the LSA playoffs. Stickstar has brought you live, mobile, remote, live stream access of the MCLA's Lone Star Alliance all season long. It's a great league. We're proud to be a part of it. We're entering second season. The initial stage is set. At the very least, we understand who will make the playoffs. We don't know who will win the first round due to the pre-recording. Today, I'm joined by two guys who have a great understanding of the Lone Star Alliance, both having played in the LSA at Texas State and both coached at Texas State as well. They've been on plenty of calls this year, so they've seen what many of the teams have and know them well. I'd like to introduce Kyle Saunders and Patrick Franklin, the hype man. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Man, I'm awesome. Out here at Josie Records, pumped to be here. First time in this place. We've said their name a lot on our live streams. It's first time I've been here. This place is sick. You guys need to come check it out.
Patrick, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Feeling great, you know. It's been a beautiful couple days here in Dallas, Texas, just getting it going, and now beautiful spot in Josie Records to talk a little lax.
It has been a very nice last couple days, but I would say that the allergies are definitely hurting me. Have they hurt you at all lately?
No, just, only got the flat feet is probably the only negative over here.
Right.
But nothing to do with the allergies.
Everything else intact. Good. Good.
Kyle, have your allergies been hurting you at all?
Yeah, sometime last week there was a brutal allergy day. I didn't even realize what the deal was, but I had this near migraine that almost missed my practice because of it, and then I went, and wasn't until I was telling another coach, and he was like, yeah, this is one of the worst allergy days ever. So there's a lot of pollen out there. My car keeps getting washed because it's green every 2 days.
It's been pollened. Yes, today we are at Josie Records doing our first ever show. Roundtable.
I'd say it's a show.
It's kind of a show. It's not live. We're not doing it live, but we are doing it.
It's a show now.
It is a show. You've heard us talk about Josie Records often. We'll do a little video of this place, 15,000 square feet, museum mecca. They've got a lot of bins of vinyl, everything you want, and if they don't have it, they'll do their best to track it down for you. What we're going to do now is break down the programs that find themselves in the playoff picture / second season. Coaches, records, out of conference records, key wins, key point getters, the whole lot. The stage is set at this point. We're going to start with D2. There have been some major additions to the conference, and now there are 4 divisions within the D2 conference. There's a ton of teams. I believe there's 23? No, there's more than that. It's 8, 24, and 731. Right?
There's a lot.
That's a lot.
There's a lot.
Reggie Miller. So let's start with D2, of course. The first game, Missouri State, currently number 15 in the LSA, or in the MCLA D2 rankings. Baylor's currently at number 24, and that's the only D2 game that we did live. It was a cold night in Richardson where Missouri State, not the Grizzlies, defeated the Comets 6-4. Game 1 is going to be LSA D2 Central, number 2, the Okie State Cowboys, at number 1, UT Dallas. The first matchup between those two teams, UT Dallas beat Oklahoma State 25-8 on April 8th. Patrick, I believe you have Oklahoma State, correct?
Yeah, I got the Okies. They're, Coach Dustin Bunch is in his second year there. They're putting up a lot of buckets. I think, coming as a team coming from a 2-7 record last year, they're really improving in terms of the overall record. Right, they got to 6-3 this year. They've got a couple of guys that really make that possible. The first one is Charlie Gifford. He's out of Westminster, Colorado. dude's just putting up a cool 7 points a game. So that's really going to help you out.
I'm playing some good lax in Colorado these days, so
yeah,
I'm sure he's having a field day.
Monarch High School product, so I think he's enjoying it out there at OSU. And then joining him in his attack line is Andrew Braden, who's actually a Capel native.
Okay,
and he's posting up 33 goals, 20 assists. And, they got this guy, Jay Simon, who's just rounding it out from Minnesota, just putting up another cool 30 points himself. Actually, scratch that, another 40. So, they score in bunches. I think the biggest thing for Oklahoma State is just figuring out how to stop buckets. They've had a lot of games that have gone over 20 points, sometimes on the other end of those. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up in terms of, dudes, especially since, their last game they played was against UTD and they lost to them 8-25. So it'll be interesting to see how that, affects them going forward.
Yeah, that game was just a couple days ago, so it's tough to end the season on a tough L like that, and then turn around and have to face that same group right in the first round.
Pretty fresh
of the LSA playoffs, but that's the stage that we have set. I mean, number one out of the Central is UT Dallas. Richard Schwartz, he's in his first season as head coach over there. In 2017, they went 10-1. They lost to Louisiana in the conference semifinals, I believe. Possibly the championship. So this year, high expectations for the program. In 2018, they're 6-4 overall. So not nearly as dominant throughout the LSA as they were last year. I mean, it wasn't really close with many teams for them a year ago. They've had some close matches this year. They've only got, two of those losses are to Division I programs, and Texas A&M, who's the 1 seed out of the LSA South,
right,
and LSU, who's bringing up the 3rd seed in the South. So those are 7 and 8 goal losses, but respectable ones for a D2 program looking to get out there and play a little bit stiffer competition than what they're required to. You guys mentioned the recent win that UTD had over Oklahoma State. That's the matchup that we're seeing here. I expect them to cruise right past them again. I think they got too much juice. Saw them play Missouri State on your live stream with B-Mole early in the season. It was freezing, but really impressed by Missouri State. And UTD did a great job in that game, so I expect them to cruise in this first game.
Scally still playing at
Yep, John
senior
Scally.
This year?
I'm not sure if he's a senior, but the lefty goaltender is definitely very capable. He did a really good job for them against the Missouri State not Grizzlies. And the issue they had in that game was they had a tough time clearing the ball the first time, and second chance opportunities really ate them up. But they got back into that game. They had plenty of opportunities, so we'll see how that goes for them.
Scally, another Capel alum.
That's right.
Stacking them up.
The force is strong with Capel. Game 2, LSA D2 East. Number 2, Rice Owls at number 1, Louisiana Raging Cajuns. First matchup, Louisiana beat Rice 8-5 on March 31st. Important distinction, no longer ULL, it's just Louisiana.
Might as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good brand. So just go state name. Patrick, tell us about the Rice Owls.
Yeah, so Owls are another interesting one. They've got long-term head coach Mike Ormsby. He's been there for, I believe, a decade, at least a better half of a decade. I want to say it might be 10 full seasons, but he's got his guys improving every year. The last couple of years, we've seen measured improvement between how they've grown. This last year, they finished 6-1. The year before, they finished 6-4. Losing to UTSA in the regional playoffs. So that was a little bit tough for them, but I believe their first game back this year, they avenged that one. I want to say there was a 5-goal game against UTSA, which is a quality program out of the Central Texas area. For them, it's really about Davis Nelson. junior midfielder. He is their all-do-it guy. Out of Concord, North Carolina. He is 6'3", 190 pounds, and the kid just gets buckets, takes face-offs, gets ground balls. I mean, let me just read off this real quick because it's laundry list here. So he's got 25 goals, 17 assists. Last season, he was first team all-conference, honorable mention All-American. He was the LSA Rookie of the Year, and he's going 85% of the face-off X this year. So that's going to be a pretty good little matchup for them, depending on how Louisiana decides to match up against it. Last time they played him during the regular season, he only managed to get 1 goal and 2 assists, which they really bottled him up. And helping him out is the rest of his attack line, which consists of Tim Nanette and Ryan Kelly, who are each kind of putting up around 20 points themselves. Kelly more of the kind of feeder role, Nanette really trying to get buckets for himself with only the 3 assists, but he's had 3 seasons in a row of 20-plus goals, so he's a guy that you're probably going to have to cover. Those guys, I think, ended up with all 5 of their goals against Louisiana last time they played. I think it was an 8-5 game. That's what you said. Yep. So, but I think it'll be interesting to see how Davis Nelson stands up again because, if you're a guy like that that's averaging, 6-7 points a game, probably going to need to get more than 1 and 2, and his team's probably looking for him too. But we'll see how Louisiana can try to contain him and contain the rest of those guys over at Rice.
The contest, the 8-5 victory for Louisiana, was on March 31st, so that wasn't very long ago. Yeah. And in terms of all of these rematches, that was the closest of all of them. It's tough to beat a good team twice, especially inside your conference. So, Kyle, why don't you talk to us about the Raging Cajuns from Louisiana?
Yeah, this Nelson kid at 6'3", 190, I can't help but think how fun lacrosse would be at 6'3", 190.
Right.
Never got close to that, and it was still pretty fun, but that's a good place to start if you're trying to play sports.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what he's able to do. Hopefully, I would like for them to make it to Austin so that I get to watch this kid play in person. I've never seen him, but that's a big frame and obviously dominant the face-off X and doing it all. So Louisiana, they're the number 1 seed out of the East. Coach Keith Schneider, he's in his 2nd season. He just went ahead and won time to championship last year and his first go at it. Louisiana kind of rolled to the LSA Division II championship, went out to Irvine, California for the MCLA National Tournament. It's been out there for some time now, 4 or 5 years, and this will be the first year that they've moved in a little while, going up to Salt Lake City, Utah. So they were 9-2 last year en route to their conference championship, and then eventually lost pretty big to Concordia Irvine out at the national championship. But Lone Star Alliance teams, it's tough. That's always right during finals. You don't necessarily always get all your horses to the track, and in a league this big that spans almost all of the states and hundreds of universities, the competition out there is stout, so it's tough. In 2018, they're 7-4 this year. Again, not nearly as dominant, but they are battle-tested to make another run at it. The interesting thing about a school like Louisiana is the high school game over the last 5 or 6 years has really grown tremendously. There's a lot of kids in Louisiana starting to play. The level of competition at the high school level and the coaching is improving. So you're starting to see that improvement funnel into the MCLA and Lone Star Alliance ranks. You see it with Louisiana State, LSU, with these guys, even Louisiana Tech. I mean, all of these schools are improving at a rapid rate.
Game 3, LSA D2 North, is going to have Washington, Missouri Bears at Missouri State Bears. This is a battle of the Bears. It's a bear battle. A lot of alliteration going on there. First matchup, Missouri State beat the Bears 12-4 on March 3rd, but that was a while ago. Both teams have continued to improve. I have seen some D2 action. Missouri State was very capable. They had a plan on offense, very good on defense, talented long sticks, good in cage. They really did a good job stressing UTD at home. They came down on the road, and I believe they beat UTD first, and then they went down and got another win. So they beat two teams on the road. They are an addition. They were not in the LSA last year. So when you go ahead and drop a team into the conference that could immediately win the conference, it makes the overall conference better. Patrick, go ahead and talk to us about Washington out of Missouri.
Yeah, so again, measured improvement is kind of the story with these guys. You'll see that a lot with a lot of these D2 programs that are making the playoffs. You know, consistency from the players and the coaching staff is really what breeds success. Most of these teams that are returning to the show or are their first time at the show have consistent coaching staffs, right? You talk about Rice, 10 years. Coach Wayne at Washington University has been there for quite a while. Last year they finished 4-4. This year in the LSA they've gone 5-1 so far. They've only played one out of conference game. They lost it to Oakland, which was a 4-13 loss. Kind of tough, but again in the beginning of the season. So, you know, they've been improving pretty rapidly throughout the season, but they're led by Mackenzie Gordon, who, if that name sounds familiar, that's a Plano West product, standing at 6'4", 210. The senior's got 21 goals, 10 assists right now.
It's another fun size to play the game at, I would imagine.
Right. And he's actually had 21 points in the last 3 games. So,
whoa.
Mackenzie Gordon played at Providence. I believe he is probably maybe doing a little post-grad work because he definitely played at Providence and did a good job for them. But I know he had some injuries early, so that kid could definitely fill it up.
Yeah. Found him another year of eligibility and decided, hey, let's not hang him up yet.
Right. That's right. And then he's joined by Hayden Van Hoffman, which is definitely, I should say Von Hoffman, still just as cool, probably part of the all-name team there. You know, the other side of the spectrum on the sides there, he's a little jitterbug, 5'9", 130, but he's just filling up the back of the net, and he's had 12 points in the last 3 games. So, you know, between the two of them, I think, let me check my math here, but that's 33 points in the last 3 games, averaging 11 points between the two of them. That's not a bad little place to start. So I think that those two guys are really going to get it going. And then for them, I think the biggest thing is going to be how they do at the face-off X. Henry Sipple, their face-off guy, he's absolutely crushing it this year. He's working at an 82% success rate. He's also got 3 goals, 2 assists. I mean, he fills up the ground balls. He's got over 50 ground balls. And then last year he was first team all-conference in, I can't remember, what was the name of the conference that they dissolved to come to the LSA?
It escapes me as well.
Yeah.
It escapes me as well.
I'm going to go ahead and check the Googles real quick while Kyle talks a little bit about their opponents.
Yeah, Mo State, the not Grizzlies, just the Bears, all right? It's a brown bear of sort, but not sure.
Kind of looks maroon.
Yeah.
In their logo.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's many maroon bears out there, though.
There is, the Missouri State ones.
That's right.
Right?
Not Grizzlies.
Number 1 seed out of the North, LSA D2, Dustin Rich. This is his 6th season at the helm. He's an alum of the program. Patrick, you mentioned consistency of players getting all the way through, coaches being around, so crucial in the Lone Star Alliance for consistency in coaching over time. Really any program that's finding success. A lot of times, you know, you can point to a coach that's been there for quite some time. The culture is established. As I said, Coach Rich, he played at Missouri State, so that's another added bonus for their culture, really being able to understand the club players' mentality at, you know, a university like that. These kids are there competing hard, having fun, no doubt, but there is other aspects of their lives. So being able to balance that and understand it is probably crucial. So last year, they went 11-2 overall. They were able to beat Creighton to advance to the MCLA national tourney, and they ran into an absolute buzzsaw out there. The St. Thomas Tommies got after them. Perennial MCLA national title contender. Not necessarily the draw that you want to get going out to the national tournament. This year, they're, on pace and have had another great season. Haven't really taken a step back at all. They're 9-2. Their only losses are to Division I teams and Minnesota Duluth, and a 2-goal loss to Arkansas, who finished 5th in the LSA Division I North, just out of playoff contention this year. Minnesota Duluth was another really, really solid D1 program on the MCLA national stage. So they're getting out there trying to play tougher competition. Have to be commended for that. I watched them play that UTD game like we talked about. I was also impressed, especially on the offensive side. Like you said, they definitely have a plan. They move the ball with purpose. And they're also extremely great in the riding game. And to come down on the road, like you mentioned, get 2 dubs on an absolutely miserable weekend of weather here in the Metroplex, to be commended for. And, I've got them going all the way in the LSA D2 bracket this year. Won their conference last year. I think they're going to one-time it this year. First prediction of the preview show. So I'll throw that out there. The matchup against Wash U earlier this season did not even go close. They absolutely got after those guys. So tough to beat a good team twice, but I think they're going all the way. So
I'm going to see your prediction, and I'm going to raise you one Trey Cambray, who is probably going to be a little bit salty for saying that.
Yeah, Trey Cambray's pretty good, but I think that an important point of distinction is, did Mackenzie Gordon play the first time that they played? That would be a question that I would have.
I'm also curious about that.
Because if he didn't play, the 6'4" midi who can just absolutely poke it on the run. And then you got, Von Hoffman, the Wilton Warrior. It'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting game. I think that Missouri State did a great job. One of the things that really applies pressure to opposing teams for them is their 10-man ride. If you're not used to the 10-man ride, it's going to give you some fits. They also did a great job of possessing the ball behind the goal, finding their matchups, steady dose of invert. So again, pretty good game. The last game that we're going to talk about at the D2 level is LSA D2 South. The number 2 Trinity Tigers taking on the number 1 Baylor Bears. It's in the first matchup, Baylor won 13-9 on January 27th. That game was a very long time ago. Patrick, go ahead and talk to us about the Trinity Tigers.
Yeah, so they're under first-year head coach Kevin Hill. Trinity is an interesting one. Last year, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but they had a pretty abysmal season. I don't even know if you could constitute it as a season. They ended up going 1-3 and just completely canning the whole thing. No stats anywhere. No, I don't know, if it was just a lack of structure or what have you, or maybe, lack of guys. But it looks like, Coach Hill has really just turned it around really in a short amount of time here. Trinity, as you know, in San Antonio is not necessarily a hotbed for lacrosse. So you got to be able to find guys in the local area, but also, hopefully get some guys that are not from the area, hopefully, right? So they did that, and they've got senior attackman Ben Mulford, who, he just fills up the net for them. He's got 37 Gs. I think he's got, 11 assists on the year. And kind of consistently with this same message here, the attack line seems to be usually the guys getting all the buckets for most of these squads, with the exception of a few. But it's really going to have to start and finish with Trinity's 3 guys at attack. Between them, they have, I want to say, about 65% of their points. So it's going to take, Ben Mulford, Stephen Chang, and, I'm going to have a tough time. Henry Neidl. Yeah, those guys are really going to have to get it going in order to try to, make a nice little comeback one-time win over Baylor here. And I think that, their goalie, Trey Foster, out of St. Stephen's, is going to be the guy that's going to have to step up big time. You're going to have to make quality stops against this Baylor offense. They got a couple of guys that can really, 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 really get buckets. So it'll be interesting. And again, I don't know. I haven't gotten to see Baylor play this year, but I'm interested to see if they'll be back in their zone again this year. That 3-3 zone really gave people trouble last year. Some coaches didn't necessarily even know they were running it. I'm not sure how, but that's an adjustment you got to make, and we'll see if Trinity can figure that one out if, in fact, they are in the zone. But I think it comes down to Trey Foster in goal and then Ben Mulford seeing what he can do against those guys over there at Baylor.
Trey Foster, quality Tindy. Had the pleasure of watching him play many years, competing against him down in the Central District at St. Stephen's when I was still living in Austin. Really good goaltender. Saw a lot of rubber, as a lot of goalies down there do. So he's able to make the next save consistently. And I think he's going to be key in this Baylor game. Baylor's the number 1 seed out of the South, led by Coach Mike McAdams, another Texas State alum. Eat him up. He's in his 4th season there. So, again, there's some consistency. Last year in 2017, they dropped down to Division II for the first time after being in LSA Division I forever, it seems like. I think they had some numbers problems, and I think they're starting to get it turned around down there. 9-2 last season. Lost in the conference semis by 1 to the eventual champions, Louisiana, that we talked about earlier. This year, identical record, 9-2 overall. They've got a loss to West Virginia, who's a quality Division I program, and Missouri State, who we just mentioned. So earlier in the year, they beat Trinity, so this matchup's pretty intriguing because it was a pretty close game. It was just a 4-goal margin. It was, as I mentioned, early in the season, so it's tough to beat a good team twice, and with a chance to make it to Final Four weekend on the line, would expect for this one to be very close too. So.
That is the second game that Missouri State won on the road. They came down and beat UT Dallas, and then they went and beat Baylor. Yeah. Which, if they would have just gone up through Louisiana and beat Louisiana, that would have been a pretty ridiculous trifecta. They didn't do that, but they...
Would be cool if they did, though.
That would
Triple
be pretty
crown.
Cool. The Triple Crown, as it were. So, Baylor... They've got really shiny gold helmets. They're going to give it the old college try. Cambrere, he's a big dude, and he did a good job last year. We saw them play UT Dallas. They gave UT Dallas all kinds of fits with the zone. So that's the D2 stage. It's set. Predictions, really quickly. Do we want to do that?
I'm going Mo State. Mo State all the way.
Yeah, I got Baylor.
You've got Baylor?
I got Trey Cambray.
I am going to go with the Missouri State Bears, and I believe they will play the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Louisiana, they're the 2-time back-to-back champs, right?
Going for that three-peat.
They're going for the three-peat, trying to get all 3 of them. So it'll be interesting.
2-peat last year, 3-peat this year.
Yeah, they got the 2-peat, otherwise known as the back-to-back.
They got a word for that, I think.
Or 3 words.
I think it's called the repeat.
Right.
Or the repeat.
Yeah.
Back-to-back also works.
I heard it somewhere.
It's tough.
It is tough. Vernacular is important. Not all of us have it, but let's proceed to the D1 LSA.
Let's do it.
Where we took in a substantial amount of action. We live streamed a lot of games this year.
Stick Star Productions getting out there in the LSA.
Right, getting out there. We believe in this league. It's a great, great league. We'll get into that a little bit more in a little bit. But let's go ahead and get jiggy with it. Patrick, you'll have the South. Kyle, you'll have the North. Game 1.
King in the North.
Number 4, Texas State Bobcats, but number 1 in y'all's hearts. So go ahead and let's keep it.
I'm sure Patrick's going to be very non-biased on this one.
Number 4, Texas State Bobcats. At number 1, Oklahoma Sooners, OU, able to beat State 13-9 on March 10th. There was a little turmoil, though, going on with Texas State back then. You'll cover that as well. But, Patrick, go ahead and talk to us about Texas State, and then Kyle will talk to us about Oklahoma.
Yeah, so Texas State University Bobcats, they're, the alma mater. They're under interim head coach Greg Kremen, former teammate of mine, stand-up guy, kind of a defensive stalwart in his own right. But, Texas State's been going through a coaching transition from Stephen Torkington last year. Also losing myself, so the staff from last year and Jason DiGiovanni is completely gone.
AJ Anderson.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't part of the coaching staff, but that's a big loss in goal as well. And I think that Greg Kremen has really stepped it up and really brought back some of that team culture that has been so apparent at Texas State for the last couple of years. I mean, during my run of coaching and playing, I think we went to 5 straight championships, and I mean, you won in the one that I wasn't there, which congratulations, by the way, Coach.
It's about time.
Yeah, but Texas State right now, looking at a 3-4 LSA record. They went 0-2 out of conference, playing UCF and South Carolina up at SMU. South Carolina, pretty capable team. Biggest thing for Texas State is what's happened in recent future, I guess I could say, is the recent future. I think
in
that's called.
Future?
I think that's just called
the present.
In the past. I think it's called past. I think it's called the past. But
it was well spoken.
Last weekend, Kyle and I were on the mic for their game against TCU. They really got it going against TCU, who got after them last year in San Marcos. They ended up with a 12-6 win there. For the Bobcats, it really comes down to, the 3 guys they got to the attack last year. They were the highest scoring attack line in the LSA D1. They didn't get any honors for it, but, they're really filling up the back of the net, and these guys have chemistry that most people don't because they've been playing together for 3 years now as a group, and that's Dylan Hanner, Dylan Lemon, and Jacob Martin. All 3 of them kind of just filling up the back of the net, finding each other in space. The interesting thing for Texas State is going to be how these goaltenders stack up in terms of making quality stops and communicating at the defensive end. Coach, you mentioned that they lost AJ Anderson, all-world goalie and human. Tough to fill the pipes up with something other than that, right, and to follow that. So they've got Tree Hayes out of Dripping Springs High School and Moose Winery, who's out of Regis Jesuit in Colorado, going to split time there. I think the Bobcats are in a pretty good spot. Like you said, they competed with OU the last time they met over in Southlake. I had a report that the grass might have been a little bit too long, but you gotta figure it out sometimes, right?
That won't be an issue at Cabin because it's turf, I believe. Special note about Greg Kremen. Actually from the same clan, I believe. He is from the McCrimmon clan. So that's also a very strong fact there. Hard-hitting reporting, 6-star report, 6-star productions, Anthony Crimmin, Patrick Franklin, Kyle Saunders.
I don't know that in my notes.
Here at Josie Records. Kyle, go ahead and talk to us about OU Sooners.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you mentioned that attack line. Throw in a 7-foot-tall Brian Wynn down there. And things get very difficult. Oklahoma, they're the 1 seed out of the North. They've had a tremendous season. Coach Mario Anea, he's in his 4th season. Apologies there. Really doing a good job getting this program headed in the right direction. The guy's out on the recruiting trail, talking to parents, talking to players, providing that consistency over time. They're in their 4th season here. Last year, made it to the Lone Star Alliance Conference Championships, hung with SMU for pretty much the whole game until late in the 4th. Furthest the program's ever made it in a season. So, they were 10-2. As I mentioned, they were runners up. They beat Texas in the semifinals to advance in a tough game.
They beat TCU.
Apologies.
But I believe, I'm not sure, I believe OU also beat TCU in a pretty epic Jenga match because there was the thunderstorm delay there for roughly 4 hours, which was pretty tough.
Right.
But I digress.
I digress. I got that totally wrong. TCU. Jenga match was epic. Side note, on Twitter last night, saw 2 high school teams whose lights had gone out, and they had a Fortnite dance-off while the lights were out. So that was pretty interesting. Look at that. Pretty good dance moves being thrown down. Banner year, they came up short. They're trying to take the next step. Coach Anea is extremely competitive guy. Roster is full of ballers. This season, they're 11-3 overall. They doubled up on the 2 seed out of the North, SMU, 14-7. That's a pretty impressive victory. SMU's got dudes, and they just really got after them. Now, the last meeting, right, with Texas State, you mentioned this, Krem, was out in Southlake, 13-9, right? So just a 4-goal match. Texas State was coming off of that coaching change. It's going to be interesting because, watching Texas State play TCU last weekend, I feel like they're kind of starting to come together at the right time. OU's obviously been playing good lacrosse all year, but I think we're just now starting to see that. Texas State squad kind of start to reach their potential here in April. So I think the rematch is going to be, one, super heated, right? Like, these are 2 programs that
contentious,
not necessarily big fans of each other. I think it got kind of rough in the last one, but it's just 2 teams of great players and athletes competing. They had a huge out-of-conference win against Arizona. Arizona, another one that's a perennial MCLA top 25, top 30 team. So that's a big win. They beat them 11-5. Now, this attack line that they're throwing down at Oklahoma is kind of ridiculous. Senior Eddie Arnold, 37 Gs, 14 assists, 51 points. Anytime you're putting up 50 points in a season, you're doing it, right? So I'm interested to see what that matchup looks against senior close defenseman Jake Hamilton, J-Ham out of Keller, Eddie Arnold out of Flower Mound. These 2 guys have been playing against each other for 8 years now?
Yeah. I think they even played in a state championship against each other.
Right. And probably middle school ball even before high school. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. Bray O'Connor, another attackman that is getting buckets, 23 goals, 9 assists for 32 points. And then you've got the freshman phenom, Nick Rouchel, out of the Woodlands. This kid came in and he's having a day, or lots of them, as it were. 21-9, 30 points on the season. Now, it gets better for them, right? How's it get better? Well, they're stacked at the midfield unit, too.
Yeah, Frank.
Yeah, Kyle Frankowitz, the Houston Christian product, 23 and 22, 45 points at the midfield. Austin Sanchez, 22 and 25, 47, right? So between your top 2 middies, you're throwing down 92 points. That's some serious production. And then midfielder Jackson Buell, he's got 26 points on the season with 13 and 13. Super talented bunch. As we mentioned, they've had an excellent season thus far. They're going to have to get by a very hot Texas State team. They're rounding into form. And so I'm excited to see that game. I'm going to drive up to Norman on Saturday and catch that game. And then we'll see who comes out on the other side of it. But it's sure to be a great game.
2 men enter, 1 team leaves. Sprinkle a little T. Biggs in there also. A little Tyler Billig at OU.
Sorry, Billig. There's only...
Yeah.
I only got a spot for 6 guys on here.
Right. Tyler Billig, he's been playing pretty well in his sophomore campaign. Special note on J-Ham, easily the best, well, I wouldn't say the best, but top 2 state championship celebrations of all time. That guy...
And we were on the call for that.
Yeah, that guy got his pads off and his shirt off very quickly and was running around the field just very enthusiastically.
I think he got up in the stands at some point.
Yeah, probably.
Had to wave the rat tail around a little bit.
That's right.
That's right.
Yes,
J-Ham, kind of a savage. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You want him on your team.
Beautiful human. I'm excited about Bray O'Connor, the Winged Beaver, fellow alum, Winged Beaver out of AOF.
Knew you had to hit it.
Yeah, that's a really important detail for me. That's going to be a great game. All of these are going to be pretty good games. Let's go ahead and dive right into our next game, which is going to be number 3, North TCU Horned Frogs at number 2, North UT Longhorns. This is a little bit different between the D2 and the D1. Most of these games aren't rematches, right?
Right.
That one is the first one, Bobcats versus Sooners. But the next 3, these two teams did not square off against each other during the regular season. I believe that... Who's got Horned Frogs?
That's me.
That's you.
That's me. Yeah, TCU, I've seen this team play a ridiculous amount this season. I think I've been on 5 or 6 of their game calls. Want to thank the TCU Parents Association. Again, we make sure to do this every broadcast, but in addition to the Lone Star Alliance, bringing Stick Star Productions on for various games this year, Parents Association, right? TCU, they got together. They've got kids on that roster from literally all over the country. Parents can't travel all the time to see games. They got together, chipped in, brought us on. So we're very thankful to them. And I've been fortunate enough to watch them play quite a bit this season. Coach Purcell, Mark Purcell, he's in his 3rd season there. Another guy that's doing a great job with that program. They were kind of towards the bottom of the LSA before his arrival as head coach, and he's done a great job with program branding and vision, exposure, getting out. He's recruiting heavily. I think they've got like 18 freshmen on this team. So he's out there. You see him at all these different events throughout the state, recruiting, talking to parents, talking to players, selling TCU, great academic institution, big-time football, big-time basketball, big-time baseball, great college experience. So he's done a great job with that. Last year, they were 7-5, got to the conference semis. Not sure if they won the Jenga match or not. Do you know who won the Jenga match?
I'm going to have to talk to Orlando, see if he can find that for us.
Our main man, Orlando, over here on the 1s and 2s. Not sure who won the Jenga match, but they did ultimately lose in the conference semis to OU, like we talked about. Again, that was a first for TCU getting to the Final Four. So high expectations coming into this season that maybe haven't played out in their overall record. Right now, they're 3-9. But that sounds a lot worse than the situation actually is. They were in all of these games that they played. They've had some trouble finishing out games, but you can tell it's a team that's just kind of right there. Some issue clearing the ball that have gotten consistently better throughout the season. Some of that trouble with finishing, I think, finishing games is, they are a young squad. They've got a ton of freshmen playing a lot of minutes for them. And they've really just had trouble putting full games together. They've put halves and 3 quarters and even 3.5 quarters together, but ultimately come out on the wrong end of the record. Doesn't mean they can't take a run at it, though. It's not going to be easy. Certainly not against UT. One thing that's interesting for them is who's going to play in goal, right? We've seen these two tendies split time. You've got Ryan Lawton and Brody Cummins, righty-lefty combo, right? Sometimes they've played halves. I've seen them, it was Lawton full game against SMU, Cummins next day full game against Texas State. So interesting to see what they do with the goalie situation. Another important factor that could come into play here as this game plays out and the playoffs play out is will William Creedon be playing. Dominant face-off guy for TCU. He has had an absolute field day, and the Lone Star Alliance teams have not had an answer for him. He was dominant in the SMU game, and it was tight all the way up until midway through the fourth quarter. He took an injury. I think he's got a bum wing. Did not play the next day against Texas State. So they've got some other guys that they can throw out there at the face-off X, but he's their dude, and he could have a serious impact one way or the other, whether he plays or does not play. As I said, they're a very solid team. They're absolutely huge. I mean, at attack, you've got Andrew Miller, kid's a monster. Brandon Beatty out of the Woodlands, freshman. He's ripping it up this year. Smaller player, but stout and strong, quick and shifty. Lefty, you've got Connor Hoke down there, who we saw go off against SMU, and then he had a pretty good day against Texas State the next day, too. At the midfield, you've got Nathan Staff, another huge human being, as well as, Reed Elliott out of Rockwall getting tons of minutes.
Reed Lewis,
apologies. The Snake.
Yeah, I believe that's his nickname, I've heard.
Righty. Joe Boyce, I mean, the list goes on. And Saxon is one of the biggest guys in the league. I really like their long stick mini. Luis Nunez, this kid is disruptive. He's got Troy Polamalu hair, and he flies around all over the field making plays. So I'm really curious to see how this matchup with UT goes. Obviously, it's going to be tough traveling down to Austin and getting it done at Cavan, but this is a team that's certainly capable of a first-round upset and advancing back to the Final Four weekend.
We did get confirmation that TCU did win the Jenga match, so appreciate Orlando for checking that out for us. Just crushing it. Thumbs up back there. Patrick, go ahead and talk to us about the number 2 team out of the South, the UT Longhorns.
Yeah, so Longhorns under Coach Seth Bachmeier. California natives really gotten it going in his time. Texas, after their 4-year championship run from 2011 to 2014, went on a little bit of a dip. Obviously, they went to the championship, but Texas State lumped them up a little bit there the year after. Texas had a little bit more of trouble in that regard. But since then, Coach Bachmeier's done a really tremendous job of recruiting freaks. Absolute freaks. They've got a couple of transfers that have really made big impacts for them. They've got a couple of guys that have just come in as freshmen, and they just have athletes everywhere. On the offensive side of the ball, it's really going to come down to John King and Charlie. I've always messed this up whenever I do the feeds, but I think it's Chaim, right? I mean, the big righty, 41. Charlie is. He wants to sweep that right hand, and he's going to get buckets. John King, a little bit different player, a little bit more box style, really shifty, really in and out, hard to cover, a little bit of a jitterbug, and then you got the kid Walker Crow, who's played in only a couple of games, but 7 goals in the few that he's played. I think he's a third in points per game on the team. He is going to fill up the net if he is playing on Saturday. That is certain. I'm sure of that.
Gonna want to get your long stick to him whenever possible, and then slide early.
Going to.
Wish you coulda.
He's going to beat people on impact, so you just better be ready to slide.
Yeah.
That's a thing that people have coined getting crowed. So gonna want to make sure that you have a slide ready to get to him. Righty lefty all day.
Getting crow originates from Johnny Daniels getting crowed at a training. Walker absolutely destroyed his ankles, made him fall down, and Johnny came off the field and said, "Man, I just got crowed." And it's we've seen him do that to a lot of people ever since.
Right. Shout to Johnny up at D1 Bellarmine. Hope he's doing all right. Yeah, and then for UT, I think the biggest thing is going to be their defense. Like I said, they've got some freaks. Starts with Banks Blackwell and Cooper Glass. Cooper Glass, a Monmouth transfer, first-team all-conference defenseman last year. Banks Blackwell, I actually should have announced that he was also an all-MAC, all-conference player before he transferred to Texas. So that's kind of
a big deal.
You like to pick up.
You like to pick those guys up.
And then you got Banks Blackwell. He's like 6'5", 230, and can run, like chase you down and rip your arms off. I think his brother is on the team as well. He's about the same size. They also plays defense, so it's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. And then in the cage, they got Tyrell coming back. Had some ridiculous games last year out in Utah against BYU. They snagged that win last year, and he had a couple of big games in the regular season and postseason. They split a little bit of time last year, but I think that the biggest thing for this matchup is going to be UT's 10-man ride. We've talked about TCU's inability to clear the ball at times during the season. I saw them struggle last week against Texas State in a zone ride, and I believe that when UT goes to the 10-man ride, as they inevitably will, and they have been all season, it is going to hurt TCU. I think that their polls are going to get after a couple of these guys size-wise. But again, I think, the face-off X feeling out how Creedon's feeling. If he's okay to go, it's really going to help them out. But they're going to need to possess this ball and really hope that they can figure out this 10-man ride, because it's going to be tough.
Yeah, when they do get it on offense, they're like to see them go back to the invert that we saw late against SMU and even against Texas State. It's a way that they can, should they be able to break the 10-man and get it into their offensive half, extend some possessions. But yeah, I think that's a great point. They've had some issues clearing the ball. Don't think they've really seen the 10-man much this year yet. So
yeah. And I mean, some teams have had success against UT's 10-man. OU, when they played in the Star, was able to get, I think, 1 goal against them, and Texas State, I think, got 2 or 3 before they jumped out of it. So we're one of the reasons why Texas State was able to get up to that. I think it was a 7-1 lead to start the game before eventually 7.5 and falling by about 5. So it'll be an interesting matchup, I think. I think it's going to be a pretty fun one.
Yeah, I got to see Texas play Florida State in a pretty awesome,
huge
out-of-conference game. It went to overtime. That game was absolutely ridiculous. They showed a lot of competitive excellence in that game. They were down like 9-2 or 9-3, something crazy like that. Came all the way back, won that thing in overtime. So it's a resilient bunch. Just need to stay up in advance, get back to Final Four weekend, and then they've got a serious shot to avenge some of these. Well, their one loss to the Aggies, should they run into them.
Right.
The big thing for them is they are going to get to play 2 home games. Right, that's important. They get to, or potentially 3. They get to play in Austin. They don't have to travel. You might lose 1 or 2 players due to travel just because something school related is going on. So they're going to have all of their troops, you would think, at home if they can get past this first weekend, going into the next weekend, which is always important. Game 3, number 3 out of the South, the LSU Go Tigers. At number 2, North, the SMU Ponies, or the Mustangs. These 2 teams, again, they didn't play during the regular season. SMU, the 2-time defending champs, have had some hiccups this year, right? It's tough to maintain that level of consistency, especially when you win a lot, I think, at the top, to maintain that fire.
Yeah, right. Stay dialed, right? Not hard. Get comfortable.
Right, you win the championship your freshman year. You win the championship your sophomore year. Like, well, we won some championships. Maybe we kind of relax a little bit in year 3. So they're going to have to find that championship mentality. Patrick, go ahead and talk to us out of LSU, out of the South, the number 3 seed, the Tigers.
Yeah, LSU, quality program. Coach Eccles, believe it's his third year at LSU. He has brought their program to levels that I don't think. Well, actually, I do believe they probably thought it was unimaginable because he was a pretty quality high school coach in the area, and I think that's why he came on at LSU to coach some of the kids that he had coached in high school, kind of continue their run going into the collegiate level. And Coach Eccles, I mean, in his time at LSU has seen a lot of success with that program, a lot of firsts with that program. This year, they celebrated their first win against Texas State in I believe it was 11-10. Barn burner in Baton Rouge. So, congrats to them. It's a pretty huge one.
Program win. First time ever.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome win to see that happen.
Yeah.
I'm a Texas State guy, but totally down with program wins and people taking the next step. So
yeah, that's huge. I remember after the LSA Final Four down in San Antonio, I was having a conversation with one of their players about that and kind of their competitive nature. He was, man, we can't just get over the hill. And I'm like, dude, you guys don't understand. You guys are going to be over the hill pretty soon here. It's a lot of these teams. They've been competing for a long time and finally, broke the seal on that one. I think last year they might have, I don't know if they got A&M or UT last year, but I want to say they got one of those guys last year. So, yeah, they're making measured improvement.
Texas
for them,
and Austin.
In Austin, that's what it was last year, which was a huge one for them. Again, another program first. But this LSU team, it's a pretty interesting bunch. They lost a lot last year through graduation and maybe just players not returning. I mean, most notably, they lose the league's highest scorer from the year before, which just a quick shout out to Asher Warbeck. I think he's the only player to make most points in the league and not get any accolades for it. He wasn't first team all conference at attack, I don't believe, even though he tied the guy that got MVP of the league and offensive MVP of the league in points. He was also definitely the biggest player of their team because he scored roughly 70-something points. So he's a freak. They're going to miss him this year. They have been missing him this year. They've also been missing a bunch of other guys. On the offensive side, they've lost 4 of their top 5 scorers in Asher Warbeck, Austin Melson, Patrick Clancy, and Messinger too. So really they only return Thomas McGinty, who's their 3rd leading scorer this year. They've got a couple of young players in Max Merritt and Dylan Futrell. I don't know. Might be a little Cajun in there, so I don't want to. Apologies if I messed it up, but doing my best here. But those 3 guys really get it going for them on offense, and then defensively they lose. Their number 1 ball stopper in terms of Thomas O'Brien, all-conference goalie. Seen him make a lot of ridiculous saves over the last couple of years. They definitely miss him. And then Paul Stapp, who might be the largest human to ever live. We talk about 7-footers. I think this guy might be a full 8. Loves going over the head. Loves ripping the ball out of guys' sticks. They miss him. Big number 44. And then lastly, they lose another specialist. I draw a blank on his name. I should probably look it up, but LSU's faceoff guy was pretty dominant the last 4 years for them, graduated, and, they're doing pretty well at the faceoff X this year, but when you lose an all-conference goalie and an all-conference faceoff guy, that tends to take a toll on you. This year, their LSA record was 4-2 with a 1-5 out-of-conference record. I think that LSU struggles, I should say it'll be interesting. Out of their 4 wins that they have, 2 of those come against D2 opponents, so they only have, 2 D1 wins. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up in this game, especially against an SMU team who's been up and down. I think this one is definitely going to be the most interesting of the 4, just because, I should say save Texas State OU, but we really don't know what we're going to get out of both of these squads. LSU, you got a lot of young upcoming players trying to make their name in the league and really put a stamp on this. Getting an SMU one would be another big program first. I'm sure they've got a lot of energy behind getting that W, but again, they'll have to travel up to SMU, which is a stretch, and then the biggest storyline, I think, of this whole game is I believe it's going to be Coach Eccles' last year. I think he announced before the season that this was going to be his last year coaching at LSU. I don't want to give misinformation, but I believe he has a young son that I think has spent time with the fam, which is pretty admirable. Makes sense for Coach Eccles. He's a pretty stand-up dude, so we wish LSU the best of luck, and Coach Eccles definitely a class act, so wish him the best going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see this game. SMU and LSU this year, I think they match up really well. Krim, you mentioned that SMU has kind of stumbled a little bit this year. Not uncommon to see them kind of trip up a little bit early and mid-season and then just kind of round right into form for the playoffs. Tend to get dudes to the field. This is Coach Carl Lynch's 7th season at SMU. Before that, he was at UNT for forever. Coached my brother. Coached at UNT whenever I was a player at Texas State. Know him really well. He's provided a level of consistency that SMU and the Mustangs badly needed. 2017, we already mentioned this, but they repeated as the Lone Star Alliance champions. They were 11-5 overall, and they went on to beat Oklahoma for the ship, went out to Irvine. Were unable to get all the horses to the track and had a tough time in the first round, but got out to MCLA Natties for the second time in as many years. So great season in 2017. Overall record at this point is 7-6. They beat TCU by 2 to secure the 2nd seed in the LSA North. Lost to Oklahoma, but the win against TCU just last weekend, we were on the call for that. Or I was on the call for that. That was a good one. They needed that one. Not a great day of weather. Their guys showed up to play, and I think it all starts really at the midfield for them. They want to apply a lot of pressure on defense, and they're certainly doing that. But from there, they get it to their middies pretty quick, and they ask those guys to get out and run and push the tempo and kind of get after it. Jake Garino is a huge transfer from Bucknell. He's a Westlake product.
He was even there.
Went up to, don't forget about Jake.
No.
All right. Garino, really great story with that kid. Came off of 2 knee injuries that were pretty bad. Maybe even a third. Ended up going to play at Bucknell, coming back. And he's got 17-9 for 26 points on the season. Thomas Garrett, that's a tough cover right there. His stat line is pretty hilarious. 24-1. He's about his buckets.
Shooters shoot.
Yeah, shooters got to shoot. He's going to beat you on impact, much like Walker Crowell. And he can absolutely bring it on the run after he gets a step. And then there's our dude. His name is Austin Rolfe.
The Rolfinator.
Austin Rolfe, he's back. He's back, and he's got 10 and 11. I don't know that he's made it to all of the games this season, but he was there for TCU, and they run a lot of offense through him. I would. He's roughly impossible to cover in this league. They do some interesting stuff, dodging him out of corners, playing him off of 2-man games, looking to get matchups, quality distributor, freak of an athlete, can shoot it, beat his man. Really a do-it-all type of guy. And then down at attack, they got some dudes too. Graham Gillespie out of St. Mark's. He's having a great season, 17 and 14. Very balanced player, can carry, distribute. Smart guy coming out of St. Mark's. Played for a couple great coaches there. So he's got 31 on the season. And then Garrick can't trail me nothing, right? Kid is a lefty, stout, inside finisher, quality ball carrier, can also distribute. He's got 8 and 6. He's down a little bit in the stat book from last year, but he's playing great and getting after it. So I expect the midfield to really be the difference in this game, if there is one, right? I think that SMU's middies are very athletic and can get out, and it's going to be a function of are they able to get stops and possessions? And if they do that, then, I think that they'll be able to advance back to Final Four weekend. And lastly, Krem, you mentioned this for Texas. This is also crucial for SMU. It's a home game. Right.
Massive.
Get to sleep in their beds. They just walk down, get to the field. Unbelievable complex. Home field advantage is real in Dallas. So that should be a good game on Saturday. I'm looking forward to seeing who comes out of it and makes it to Austin.
Yeah, and one thing that I think that, you mentioned it quite a bit. I think that one thing you talked about, the defense extending to pressure, I think that, I'm pretty sure he's still playing this year, but Adam Alsadek and a couple of those other towers on the defensive end for SMU. I mean, I don't think they have a defenseman the only defenseman they have under 6 foot, I think, might be Cam Farr, and he's 5'11" and a half, and he is a freak.
Yeah.
He's got all the dangles. Cole Ogden out of Highland Park. I mean,
Tower.
They got dudes on defense. There's no doubt.
If they can get those guys to the field, then they will have a lot of success. But it's hard to bring that continued excellence, especially when you've won it the first 2 years.
And one more point, Adam Conley, All-American goaltender, he graduated last year. 2 years, yeah. William Bird has stepped into cage, and he made some ridiculous saves against TCU. Big frame, wider than Adam Conley, but very capable in the goal, and they just went ahead and just backfilled after a huge, massive loss in Conley. Conley was a dominant player in the Lone Star Alliance for 4 years. So,
yeah, if you have a good goal, you'll go pretty far. I think UT had that for a while with Jordan Lee, right? I think he went for 4 straight. Yeah. So a good goalie can do a lot for you.
Yeah, and they're going to be picking up the Tendy. Prescott King is going to SMU next year, so that's another pretty substantial contributor in cage for the Ponies. No shortage. Let's move right over into the 4th and final game. Number 4, Texas Tech Raiders at number 1, Texas A&M Fighting Aggies. A&M didn't play Tech again. We're seeing a pattern. We discussed this pattern earlier. And let's go with...
They were supposed to play, though. That game got canceled. It was supposed to be the last game of the season, and I'm not sure what happened there. SMU probably had some academic something going on.
SMU?
Texas Tech?
Or,
Texas Tech?
Yeah, Texas.
So number 1 out of the South is Texas A&M with a pretty unbelievable season thus far. Patrick, talk to us about the Fighting Aggies.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit this nail right on the head. We talk about consistency at the coaching staff. It is no coincidence that Coach Skaz over at A&M is having success. I can't even count how many years he's been coaching. I mean, Kyle, was he the coach when you were playing?
Oh, yeah, long before I was coaching.
Right.
So. He was coaching there when my coach at Texas State, Chris Park, was there, and many of the current referees in the Metroplex were playing there. I know Jay McCracken played for Coach Scazzaro at A&M. Ivan Isaac played for Coach Scazzaro at Texas A&M, so he has been around a long time.
Yeah, you definitely know him. And if you've been to the Aggie Lane Classic, obviously you know A&M Lax is a pretty big deal. They are seeing some really big-time success this year. They have the last couple of years. Fell a little bit short in recent history, but, for them staying healthy, they freaking get buckets, baby. I mean, they probably got 5 guys that could be the number 1 or 2 scorer on any other team in the conference. I mean, they just fill up the net. You got AJ Hepting, GW Bodden, Augie Burkle, Gavin Planetta. I mean, they just have
Chandler Locklear,
the fact that I'm not saying names like Chandler Locklear, who is, scores a hat trick in the conference championship, that just shows how deep they are on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, right. Mikey Gillette, they got guys on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know if they've had a game in which they didn't score 12 plus points. I mean, they absolutely fill up the net all the time. For them, I think it's just they've been pretty good at the face-off X. They've made stops consistently on the defensive end. If they continue to pour it in like they have, I mean, I'm gonna see them going all the way. A&M, I think, obviously they're the number 1 seed for winning the LSA South. I think the LSA South is the stronger of the 2 divisions by far, and I think that going 6-0 in the LSA is a statement. They started off their season 7-0. Since then, they've been 1-3, which is a little bit, you look at the numbers and you're like, oh, that's concerning a little bit. But then you look into the games themselves, and all of those games are against ridiculously qualified out-of-conference opponents. They're right in them as well. They haven't really had a big blowout this year in terms of a loss, but they are rolling, to say the least. I mean, they're getting it going. I'm excited to see how that one pans out, but I think that we're going to see a little bit too much juice on the offensive side of the ball. Tech, obviously, it's their first coach, not to get too much into yours, but congratulations to them. I mean, they just made the playoffs for the first time in very long time recent history. Back in the days of Matt Davis and a couple of those other studs in 2005, 2006, they had some success, but, Texas Tech hasn't really seen that success. They got a really good win. Coach, I'm sorry again to cut you off on that one, but against, it was Arkansas this last week in order to seal that deal. But, it's going to be tough. 1 playing a 4 being, a really good team, but the 1 being a ridiculous team that's the number 1 seed out of the South. Going to be a tough one for them.
Yeah,
Kyle?
In the North, I think you see a little bit. There's a bigger drop off from 3 to 4 than what you see in the South this year. It's not always the case, but I do think that's the case this year. Last year Texas Tech, they were 2-9 in 2017. That is not good by anybody's standards. They missed the playoffs, as you mentioned, for many, many years in a row. So to get back is a big deal. This year they're 8-7. What's interesting is they've won 4 of their last 6 games. So finishing the season pretty strong. They've got William McKenzie. He's got 38-4 for 42 points. Our guy, Artie Elliott.
I was going to say, how's Artie doing?
Artie Elliott is he's ripping it up, man. 28-9 for 37, and Travis Hogman 24-13 for 37 points as well. So they do have guys on this team that are very capable. Now, when you're at this level, what it really comes down to is who's got more dudes, who's got more depth across the board at different positions. You look at Texas Tech, they've got a handful of them. You look at A&M, and they got hands and feet full of them, right?
Right.
So I think that the midfield depth is going to be an issue. I think, the travel from Lubbock down to A&M for this quarterfinal game is going to be an issue for them too. I think that they will come out and play really hard and compete and be in it for a little bit, but ultimately A&M's got too much juice, and I think they're going to run away with this one. And I think that they are definitely the favorite to win the whole enchilada this season, but I'm not ready to crown them champions yet. I think there's some other people that they're going to have something to say about that. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough to win it. They were hot early on, and it's hard to get that to translate throughout the entirety of the season.
Right.
So they're going to have to get the momentum, pick it back up. One person I'd like to go ahead and key on for Texas Tech is, I believe it's their president, Logan Martyr. I saw this guy play in the TCU Tech game. This guy's an absolute monster. He can do a lot of heavy work in the low post. I would have liked to seen them get the ball back to the Prez whenever he had a short stick, because this guy he's a cheat code out there. He did a great job. That is a lot of content that we just covered. Great job by these two guys, really breaking it down. I would say that there are very few people who have an understanding of the Lone Star Alliance as these two guys do. The only other guy would be Lone Star Power Ranks, our boy Cliff. But Cliff has been working hard, and he's got a baby, so we wish him well. I think it's important to discuss the fact that we're going to talk about the MCLA here briefly and the LSA. One of the things for Stickstar that we're all about is Texans at the next level. And while it's very important to celebrate all of the players who go ahead and take their talents to the NCAA, the MCLA and the LSA is a very competitive and legitimate league. So, with that being said, what is the MCLA? The Men's Collegiate Lacrosse Association is a national organization of non-NCAA men's college lacrosse programs. The MCLA oversees gameplay and conducts national championships for over 200 teams and 10 conferences throughout the United States and Canada. The MCLA provides a governing structure, much like the NCAA, with eligibility rules, All-Americans, and a national tournament to decide national champs in both the D1 and D2 levels. What is the LSA? The LSA is the Lone Star Alliance, consisting of 11 Division I teams, 27 Division II teams, I believe that's up from last year, Texas, Arkansas, Illinois, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma. That's some serious reach.
Yeah, may have to change the name just to the conference with the geographic span that we're hitting now. It used to just be Texas and Louisiana, Oklahoma. Now it's that's substantial.
Even then, it wasn't necessarily only the Lone Star, right? So I know I'd heard, some communication about that being needed to change, and now we've got guys from Missouri, and we're going all the way up into the Midwest a little bit. So,
been a long running debate. That debate has been alive since since the forums were still up. Yeah, there used to be the MCLA forums. That was an interesting read, and whenever I was playing at Texas State, that was a big deal. I mean, that's where you went for MCLA content before the mag came out, and the mag went to Inside Lacrosse that ended up picking up the MCLA mag. Yeah. So that's what we're here for. We're trying to bring you guys Lone Star Alliance content, MCLA content. Sorry to interrupt there, Krem.
No, it's good. It's you guys really love this league and understand that it means a lot to you. It's just important to recognize guys, because a lot of players get a lot of juice when they compete to go play Division I lacrosse, Division III lacrosse, but this is a very high level lacrosse, and sometimes you go play Division I, play Division III, and then you come back home because you want a little more low-key experience. These guys are definitely committed to playing college lacrosse, and you get to represent some pretty amazing universities. So it's important to represent them the right way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you talk about like brand awareness. Obviously, MCLA doing a great job of getting kids an opportunity to compete at a high level. And, I think that sports have a pretty big impact on things like leadership and decision making, and all these tiny little nuances of human life, that you can't necessarily get from just reading a book or, taking a class. So those team sports dynamics are huge for the molding of people. And they're also huge for the molding of universities, right? So you'd look at a school, you look at a school like Texas State or Texas, you don't really think about, I'm going there for club lacrosse. You see these massive, or A&M or TCU, you see these massive athletic departments, but, a lot of the players that go to play lacrosse there are just part of the culture of the entire university. You're just one of those people trying to raise the standard of the university and compete for that university and support that environment. And there are definitely ways to do it positively. I think that we've seen a lot of club programs elevate their schools by their club play. You look at a team, University of Michigan, we all know, was a club program. They had so much success, and I don't know if this was the only reason, but they had a lot of success in the MCLA, won a couple of national championships, and they were the first big D1 program to make the jump from MCLA to D1 NCAA. Obviously, Utah can make that jump this next year, they do a great job of representing their schools with pride, and I think that that's a huge point of distinction. You look at, the top teams throughout all of the conferences in the MCLA, they're all doing a really good job of representing that organization, and I think that's a big part of what, helps the MCLA succeed, legitimizing it in a way in terms of, obviously it's legitimized on the field with the competition aspect. We got some ballers, you can definitely tell on that end, but, I think the part where people try to get under and say, it's maybe not be as legitimate as you think is, the extracurriculars or, maybe the organizational approach of the teams and the programs individually. So when teams can get that dialed in, I think it definitely benefits the sport, the league, and I mean individually, or ultimately the individuals that are playing in it. So you got a lot of people that work really hard to pump it up. So, just keep that going.
Yeah, and there's been explosive growth of the game throughout the country at the youth and high school levels. Relative to that, at the NCAA level, it's been somewhat stagnant, right? You've had Michigan go, you've had Utah that's going, but that number of NCAA programs at the top is not catching up anytime soon to the explosion of growth at the youth level. So what that means is that, there's going to be that many more quality players in the MCLA. We've seen the level of play in the MCLA across the country rise dramatically, definitely with the level of play that we see in the brand of lacrosse that Lone Star Alliance teams are starting to put out there, the caliber of player and the depth of high caliber players that some of these teams have on roster. So it's important just to make sure that you're representing it accordingly so that, it can continue to grow, right?
Growth is important, and making sure that you're representing the university is very important because these are big time brands, and you have to remember that you are extra, right? You are not a part of you're not a part of the athletic department, so you got to make sure that you act right.
Yeah.
It's really important. We've had a really good time here at Josie Records. A lot of content, a lot of breakdown. We're going to throw a poll out there later, see if you guys want us to do something like this for the high school lacrosse tournament. Of course, these guys both coach in the high school league, so depending on where they're at in the playoff push will depend on if they can make it, because we got to make sure that everything is done appropriately. Any other comments you'd like to bring up? I've got one final thing here in just a little bit, but
yeah, I got a hot take.
Yeah, hot take.
I think that the LSA South has potential to sweep and make it an all-South Final Four. I think that OU is definitely the favorite to beat Texas State. I by no means think that, that's a foreseen win for Texas State. OU is a quality program. But barring that one, I think that there's a pretty big chance we could have
LSU beating SMU.
Could happen.
It could happen.
Could happen.
I'm putting my money on Carl Lynch and the Ponies. Those guys get up when it matters.
Right.
Especially if they've got a Rolfing around.
Who do you got taking it all, Patrick? Ooh, come on, you got to throw it down.
Says who?
You're not the boss of me. I'm not there yet.
Not there yet?
No, I'm not there yet. It's going to be an interesting debate, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be another hour-long segment, so we'll go ahead and stay away from that for this one. Stick Star Lacrosse, we're all about establishing precedent. This is precedent. We are establishing it here today. First show that we've done like this. Been on the mic, obviously, a lot for live stream calls. Guys, I had a great time. This was awesome. I'm excited to get down to Austin next weekend and take in all the LSA D2 and D1 Final Four. SPCs will be going on.
It's going to be a busy weekend in Austin with SPC going on as well.
Big weekend of lacrosse.
Yeah.
So
it's important to understand that Stick Star Lacrosse is not just a select team, right? We're up here at Josie Records doing a show on the Lone Star Alliance because we are their partner for live streaming.
I got notes.
Right? We go out to On Location, and we're on the mic. We cover the sport within the state of Texas more consistently and thoroughly than anyone else, and we've been doing it now for 8 years in terms of coverage of leagues. So, important consideration. We also make gear. We got gear. We make threads. Right. We produce content. we believe in growing the sport of lacrosse, but not just, development is great, but we're a part of the fabric of Texas lacrosse across the board. And one of the things that we also do is we're a part of the community, right? We're a part of the community. We believe in local community. That's why we do Taco Tuesdays, right? We like to eat tacos. Side hustle. We're good at eating tacos. But we want to get people to, taco establishments that people might not know of. We're at Josie Records. This place is legit.
Come to Josie. Head over to La Azteca.
Yeah.
It's just right across the highway. It's legitimate. Make sure you order at the register and then walk over. I wasted a little bit of time this morning trying to figure that all out, but man, it was worth it. Tacos are legit over there. Make it out to Josie and then head right over to La Azteca.
And with that being said, we're also about the culture. Okay, so this is our culture piece, right? So one of the things you youngsters happen to do when it comes to music is you're not a big, let's listen to the whole album kind of group, right?
What's an album?
Right. Some people are like, what's an album? Well, this is an album. We have an album right here. This is a record.
Album?
Okay? One of the great things, and it's not that you can't skip around on a record, but one of the great things about a record is that there's really good records. And the whole thing is good. You don't just play like one song from it. You just play it. You play the whole thing. Okay? Right here, we've got Led Zeppelin 4, right? Stairway to Heaven is on this bad boy. Misty Mountain Hop. If you don't know about the Misty Mountain Hop, it's a dance move. Just kidding, it's not. It's a song, right? But it could be a dance move, okay? Frodo may have done it, right? But it's important. What you do is you have your record player, right? You put your record on the record player. You play the record, and you just sit and you listen to it, the whole thing. You don't have to change it.
From start to finish?
Right? You just from start to finish.
Like,
okay? We had this discussion with one of my select teams. I go, what's your favorite album? They said, what's an album? No, they didn't. Just kidding. They knew it was what an album was, but it's important to be, it's important to be able to have something that you listen all the way through. Right?
Yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, look, this is all great music from start to finish. And then you flip it over because it's two-sided, the record, right?
Bam, right back in it.
And then you're back into the music. And you don't have to say like, oh, well, what song am I going to play next? It makes a decision for you, right?
You can actually listen to CDs start to finish too without skipping.
Right. That's another also kind of album. It's a CD album. Okay. And with that being said, that's the closing thought. Moment of zen.
Get off my lawn.
Right.
Ooh, if I could just get one more.
Yeah, sure.
For the zen closing thought.
Right.
I forgot to mention my Asher Warbrick speech. Last year was the first year that the LSA in my recent history hasn't had a Rookie of the Year for the Division I. They had it for the Division II. Didn't have it for Division I. I'd like to see it come back. Jason,
I'm with that.
Jason, help me.
Bring it back.
Help me,
I'm
Jason.
in support of that.
And then one final thing. This was great. We appreciate Josie Records. The pound, right? Right?
Air pound.
Orlando.
Just crushing
on
it.
On the ones and twos.
And the camera.
Reggie and the camera. Reggie here in spirit. He set everything up last night. We appreciate Josie Records and everybody up here, and Anthony Crimmins for Kyle Saunders and Patrick Franklin, Stick Star Lacrosse, Stick Star Productions, and we'll see y'all real soon from Austin. Back on the mic.
Woo.